What's going on, everybody? We are not in the barn today. We are in the house garage. Got the race car up in here. Had a little bit of, if we go around here, we can see the snow. Got a little cold this past week. So move the car up here. It's a little bit warmer in here. Got the heater going. Didn't make much progress other than getting the car up in here this week, because obviously we don't have a lot left to do. Motor's in, we just got to button the rest of the, looks like we got the wiring, got to prime the motor yet, got to put the drive shaft in and exhaust on, as well as the V-bars for the chassis. So we got to do that work today, as well as this weekend to be ready. I don't think we're going to fire it up because we don't really want to get any moisture in the motor, because obviously with how cold it is and heating the garage up, might get some moisture in the air, and we don't want that going down in the motor right now. So we'll see. It's going to be warm this week, so should have some time to get it broken in a little bit, just idling it basically. So yeah, we're gonna get to work here. Like I said, we're warm and don't have much work to do. It is the last week of March coming up here, so April 13th is our first practice at Berlin, so not too much time until we need to be ready to go. Hopefully the snow melts up off the ground and it starts to feel more like spring, because as soon as spring started here it got cold. So yeah, we're gonna get to work today and see if we can't get this thing ready to fire up. Alrighty, so we've got the exhaust on. We're not gonna use the bolt-on or the bolt tabs that you weld on. We knocked those off because we're gonna use like the clamping style deals to keep our exhaust together. So we still need a few more of those. We could fire it up, but it might have a little leak or something like that. Otherwise, we got the V-bars in, so everything's pretty much bolted in now. So now we're just getting ready to prime the motor, get it running. So we got a little something, we're gonna do something a little different. We got this where we put oil in. It's like a weed killer deal. So we're gonna pressurize that. And if we look down in here on the LS engine blocks down in here, on this fitting, you can actually hook it up to prime the motor by putting oil in. So what we normally, and this is right out of the oil pump, so we actually use that. You see that line running up right in there. That is where it, seeing that LS motors don't use distributors in street applications off the assembly line, there's no actual way for them to oil the front end assembly we have to put on to run a distributor to be legal in our type of racing. So we actually use that port to lube the front end of the motor, the distributor, fuel pump, and things like that. So we're gonna take that fitting off, hook this jug up into it, pressurize it, and it will pump oil without having to turn the motor over throughout all the passageways in the motor. So as we see here, we're just unhooking it now, basically. So and the big thing is we have all cars like this run remote oil filters. As you can see, our oil filters over there, and you have a lot of oil lines that are running, and then we also have an oil cooler, as you can see right down here, and there's lines running there, and that's a lot of lines that we have to try and get oil into, because in the LS motor it goes to the oil filter first, like most motors, and then we have all these lines we have to fill up before then it gets to the crankshaft, and then in the LS it goes to the top of the motor. So we just want to make sure we get oil in there before we try and fire it up. We can also take the spark plugs out and crank it over faster with the starter, but we're going to try this a little differently, just to try and be more efficient and make sure we get oil in the motor. So another thing we're going to do is just take the valve covers off, and then we can see when oil starts coming out of the ports there, because in an LS motor, like I just said, the top of the motor gets the oil last. So as soon as you get oil up there, you know it's throughout the entire motor. So that's what we're gonna do. And this is a little bit new process, something we found on the internet to try, and we're gonna see how it works. So we just put a gallon of of Schaeffer's racing oil in this tank here, and all you have to do is touch our little contraption off with some air. As you can see here, you can see that the oil running into the motor there. So we have a gallon in the oil pan already. We just are trying to get that last gallon to circulate through, so the oil pump will be able to pick some up out of the oil pan, and then we'll be pushing oil that's already in the motor. So okay, so we haven't even fired the engine up yet, and as you can see here on the gauges, the oil pressure, we keep hitting the air, so like we're almost at now 30 pounds of pressure, and in the oil pressure guide is right there, which is obviously at the top. So it wasn't like reading any pressure at all there for a while, but now that the oil is probably getting near the top here, it's starting to really read some pressure. So now, as you can see here, the gauge just went blue. We're above 30 pounds of oil pressure, and it's still climbing, so hopefully it doesn't start spraying when it gets to the top here with our valve covers off. So we'll see what happens. As you can see, the oil's still moving in. So don't see anything up top here yet. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't spray coming out, because we're, once again, as you can see, getting some good oil pressure. You know, and that's obviously without the car running. So yeah, and then as you can see right there, getting some oil coming up here, right in there, just slowly dribbling out. At least we know we got it up there. Yeah, and yeah, well, like I said before, top end's where the oil comes last, and it's just holding that oil pressure now. So just kind of as the system has pressure on it, it's not, you know, releasing it at all, but just that way we know all the passageways are filled. It's not like it's lubricating all the parts are not moving, but at least oil's in there. Yeah, so yeah, it's cool. And then you just slowly see it continue to puddle up down in there. You can see the greenish color starting to develop underneath all the springs. So that way you know it's there. As soon as the motor gets going, it will start to really sling around a little bit more and get all the parts. But obviously most of the time it comes out where it needs to. So, and we're almost out of our Schaeffer's oil. Like I said, we had a gallon in there, so it's good. Good to know too that we only need a gallon to make it work. So cool. All right, so we just ate, came back out, put the valve covers back on, and then we had the spark plugs out, and we just used the starter to spin the motor over, and it got oil pressure as soon as, you know, it took a second for the oil pump to grab the oil in the pan and then start pumping it in. So it took a split second, and then it went right to getting oil pressure. So we're just putting the spark plugs in now, and we're gonna fire it up, and kind of weren't really anticipating it just with how cold it was, but we got the heater going on out here, so you know, why not just make sure things go good. So we're gonna fire it up here in a second. All right, let's see if we can fire it up.
That ignition?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Sounds good. Minding the exhaust might be rattling a little bit. Hopefully it didn't wake any of the neighbors up, but you'll have that sometimes when you have these weird hobbies. So just putting a little bit more fluid in the radiator, working the air bubbles out. So yeah, sounds good. So yeah, cool. Kind of hurts the eyes when you're not used to it for a while, so I have to get used to that, but nonetheless, sounds good. Fired right up. We always had trouble with we had the carburetor run good when it was warm, but we never really had it good when it was cold, and fired right up, ran good. Just had to tune it down a little bit. It was running a little high, but fired right up, so everything's good. Alrighty, so obviously you got the car running, so not a lot of work left to do before we're ready. Just gonna be some setup stuff. We gotta bleed the clutch, and we're gonna the brakes are good, but we're just gonna put some fresh fluid in, so just kind of bleed them. But anyway, just want to thank everybody at C-Type Performance for getting this motor back to us, and we're gonna get ready for, be ready for the season. And then I also just want to thank Rob Enders at Schaeffer's Racing Oil and Lubricants. Met him last summer at the track, and he just a lot of knowledge. Didn't really know of Schaeffer's until we started working with C-Tech. They use Schaeffer's motor oil, and it obviously says racing oil, but in all their motors, or that's what they they kind of sell there. So we use that in the motor, and got to actually talk with Rob at Berlin, and he had a lot of insight on a lot of their other products. So he ended up hooking us up with informing us about some of the other products, just because a lot of the stuff you just buy online or off the store shelf, and you don't know exactly what it is. So they have a lot of research and explanation. They've been around, it says right on here, since 1839, and you don't stay in business without knowing your stuff. So they have a lot of good data and research on their products. They're out in the agriculture fields, on heavy machinery and such things, but they also have performance applications as well. So I want to thank him for getting us all the other fluids, helping us out with those, just to understand how we can better perform out on the track. So with him, C-Type Performance, we got the motor in, we are ready to roll. Like I mentioned, might have woken up the neighbors a little bit. I mean, it's the middle of Sunday, but you know what? Sooner or later, we're gonna have to hot lap it, because this subdivision goes around in a circle, so it makes it very easy to, want to go take some laps. So we'll go do that in the near future. Got to set up the car, and we'll be ready to go here in just a few weeks out at the Berlin Raceway. So until then, we'll see y'all later.